Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I'm going to take you behind the scenes of the massive $1.9 trillion stimulus package passing the Senate. I'm going to answer some important questions as to when is this likely to pass the House, why this needs to pass the House, and when the president is expected to sign it and when it is expected to become law. I want to take you behind the scenes because I think listening to one argument between Ron Wyden, the Democrat from Oregon, and Rob Portman, the Republican from Ohio, is the heart of the argument between the Democrats and the Republicans. One side says, hey, we need to help those who are unemployed. The other side says, hey, the economy is improving. Why should there be tax waivers for the unemployed when somebody who's employed is paying taxes? And then we look at some important comments from Chuck Schumer, the new Senate Majority Leader, and Chuck Schumer talking about whether he was upset or not with Joe Manchin. And as you can expect, he said something that I'll be covering that towards the end of the video. But let's just jump right in. I'll take you behind the scenes of the $1.9 trillion stimulus plan, how this came together, what's likely to happen next, and important clues about what lies ahead for us. I believe the automatic stabilizer, where economic numbers will be tied to unemployment benefits as opposed to political arguments, as opposed to the whims and fancies of the president or any other politician who's involved. I believe economic numbers are the future of stimulus. I also believe that we are likely to see a big infrastructure plan, but the Democrats are walking a tightrope. I want you to listen closely to this argument between Ron Wyden, the Democrat from Oregon, and Rob Portman, the Republican from Ohio, as they argue about the pros and cons of the expanded unemployment benefits. And then we'll hear from Chuck Schumer, who, as you can imagine, was gloating about the fact that the stimulus plan has passed. But I believe that there are some challenges that lie ahead for the Democrats. I'll be covering all of that in this episode of Ignition Time. Let's just jump right in and hear the argument between the Democrat and Republican on the floor of the Senate in the past 24 hours, and why this essentially gives us important clues about what lies ahead. Let's watch.
Forward to discussing this idea of triggers for economic support with colleagues on both sides of the aisle. But tonight, it is vital as the pandemic continues that the Senate pass this amendment, an economic lifeline for Americans who would strongly prefer to be back at work. Instead of attacking Americans as lazy individuals who don't want to work, these are responsible adults with a strong work ethic who will help us build back better in the days to come. I strongly urge support for our amendment. I yield.
It's time.
President. By the way, that was a clue about the the Build Back Better agenda, because that's what the Democrats are going to push for next. Let's hear from Rob Portman from Ohio.
Unemployment system, including $300 per week, as is the current law, after March 15th, when it otherwise would expire, and taking it to July 18th. Now, there's nobody in this chamber that doesn't see that the economy is improving. And the Congressional Budget Office, which is a nonpartisan group here, has told us that actually, by the middle of this year, we're going to be back to the pre-pandemic level in terms of our economy. Every economist looks at this and says that unemployment is going down. I note that my colleague over there said, from Oregon, said that claims were higher last week in terms of unemployment. The 4-week average is actually down considerably. So let me tell you what happened today, because I just looked it up. New York opened its movie theaters. Virginia announced they are opening their schools. West Virginia opened their bars, their restaurants, all businesses. Connecticut opening indoor dining. This is happening every day. The economy is getting better. And everybody says, including, by the way, Larry Summers, a famous Democratic economist who was Treasury Secretary under President Obama, that when you look at what happens with regard to unemployment insurance, if it's too high, it's a disincentive to work. I don't think Larry Summers is saying people are lazy. I think what Larry Summers is saying is that you want to have a system that is balanced, where you're encouraging people to work. There are so many employers in our states who are looking for people right now. And that's going to continue to happen as we open up more. Number 6, and then they're adding this new element that's never been in unemployment before, where suddenly if you're on unemployment insurance, you don't have to pay taxes. But if you're working, you do have to pay taxes. How does that make sense? Don't we want to encourage people to work? I think we do. I hope that my colleagues will vote down this amendment and continue to keep the Portman Amendment in place, which, by the way, passed this chamber only about an hour and a half ago.
President, I would ask for 15
Senator Wyden's,
Let's hear the response from Ron Wyden to what Rob Portman just said.
unemployment. Every week since last March, unemployment claims have been higher than the worst week of the Great Recession. And the fact is, we've got millions of Americans who every single week are walking an economic tightrope. They're balancing the food bill against the fuel bill and the fuel bill against the rent bill. And we want to give them a modest amount of tax relief for the typical working person. And the party that claims to want to help workers on their taxes won't lift a finger. That's why it's so important that this amendment pass. I yield.
Unanimous consent for 15 seconds to respond, and then I'll stop.
The senator has time remaining.
So, number
Portman's
one,
response.
the 4-week average on unemployment claims are actually going the right way. Why? Because the economy is opening up, folks. If you don't see that, you're not going home to your states and talking to your employers. Second, we have a situation here where the Republicans are saying we want to continue the $300 per month or per week after March 15th. But let's end it on July 18th. If things turn south, which no one is predicting, by the way, not a single economist, I know that a lot of us would be willing to work with the other side of the aisle to extend. But there is no reason to do that at this point. In regard to your tax cut, it's a tax increase. It's a tax increase on small businesses.
Senator Wyden's amendment passed, so the bill now extends jobless benefits through September 6th and makes the first $10,200 of jobless benefits non-taxable for households making less than $150,000 a year. Again, this $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill now goes back to the House for final action. Watch the House on C-SPAN and the Senate here on C-SPAN 2.
So now folks, we'll hear from the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's obviously pretty happy about the whole thing. But there were some important clues in what he said, and I'll break those down for you. Let's check it out.
This is a great day for the country. And from the beginning, we said we had to pass this legislation. We made a promise to the American people that we were going to deliver the real relief they needed, and now we have fulfilled that promise. Now, nobody said passing one of the largest, perhaps the most significant bill to help the poor and working people in decades was going to be easy, particularly with 50 votes. But it is done. And I said from the beginning, we were going to power through. We're not going to let anything stop us until we got the job done. And by God, we did. And here we are. So I want to say one thing. I am so proud of my caucus. I love each one of them. They are just so great. And
He was specifically asked towards the end of this interview whether he loves Joe Manchin. You have to see his response.
all have to pull together. Everyone knows. You know, I have a leadership team that meets on Monday nights, and it has Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin and Mark Warner and people in between. And that's because we have to talk to each other and realize we need each other and be united as a team. And that is the secret to the success here. The caucus unifying, every person realizing that we needed every other person to have this victory. Sure, it would be nice if the Republicans would join us, but they didn't. I thought it was a little bit hypocritical of Mitch McConnell to say, oh, we did it bipartisan. Yeah, when Trump was president, Democrats in the minority didn't block things. We worked to get something done. Now that we're in the majority, they don't seem to want to work with us. But we're going to get it done anyway. We prefer them to work with us. We want them to work with us. Maybe they'll change their minds after this. But we're going to get it done regardless because America needs it, and that's what we did. So we didn't stop. We didn't let anything get in our way. And I was confident from the get-go. I just told that to the president. He called me.
You know, these things tend to be more interesting when these officials are specifically asked questions. Let's get to the question and answer session because it's a lot more interesting.
Together as a team, and that's what we did. And no one's going to pay attention to the fact, I mean, well, I don't know, no one. That 8 hours is meaningless compared to the relief the American people are going to get. And if it helped us get
He's talking about the 8 hour delay where they were stalled because of Joe Manchin.
that's how we got this done.
Do you expect the House to pass what the Senate just passed as is, including amendments that may not be as palatable to progressive
Well, look,
members?
I spoke to a number of people in the House over the last few days, including the Speaker, and they know that they feel like we do. We have to get this done. It's not going to be everything everyone wants. No bill is, especially a massive, comprehensive bill like this. But the beauty here, within our caucus, and I think between Democrats in the House and Senate, is that we all realize we got to pull together to accomplish something. That's far more important than our differences. That's true of my caucus, and that's true of the House and Senate Democrats.
So you think the president will be signing it before the March 14th
Yes,
expiration?
I definitely do. I have no doubt about that, none. And that's what we said. Everything we said we do. We said we'd put together a strong, bold bill. We said we'd put together things that do the things the American people wanted. We said no matter what happened, we would not stop and power through and get it done. And by God, we did. What could be bad? What is bad? Nothing. Yes.
He's happy.
You said a couple times that this would push Americans over the finish line of
Yes.
the pandemic.
Now, folks, let me pause that for a second. Everyone's expecting President Biden to sign this now, but the House has to pass the Senate version of the bill because the way things work is that the House and the Senate have to pass the same bill. Remember, the House had a bill, it went to the Senate, there were changes. Now it goes back to the House that has to pass the same bill, which is expected to happen on Tuesday next week. I do expect this to be on the president's desk for signature no later than Thursday of next week. There will be an impact on unemployment benefits, though, and I'll be covering those in another video.
Expect that this is going to be the last COVID relief bill
Let's
that's
hope,
needed?
look, it's a very strong bill. Part of it will depend on COVID. How long will it last? Will there be a new strain? Part of it will depend on the economy has some underlying weaknesses that need bolstering. How deep and weak are those? Our number one lodestar is going to be helping the American people. And if they need more help, we'll do another bill. If this bill is sufficient, and I think it's going to help in a big way, then we won't do another bill.
Do you have any concern that this could be parallel to 2010 when Democrats pushed forward the stimulus, mostly on Democratic votes in the Senate, straight party line in
Not
the
at
House,
all.
and then you guys
Not
lost
even
the House?
close. This is so, 75% of the American people want this. 55% of the Republicans want it. That's the bottom line. And, you know, we'll have a job in the next few weeks. Joe Biden, our caucus, the House, letting the American people know all the important parts of this bill. But this is what they asked for. Plain and simple. Last one.
But do you believe that perhaps this could make bipartisanship more difficult if Republicans?
I hope
move
it will be
forward?
more, and I hope it will make bipartisanship more likely. When Republicans see, when we say we want to do it with you, but if we can't do it with you, we'll do it without you. Now they know they know we mean it, and they know we're capable of doing it. So now maybe they'll say they'll come together. Look, again, the bottom line. When Trump was president, Democrats didn't sit there, fold their hands, and say no. Now Biden's president. We hope they won't continue to do the same thing. Okay? Anything else I'm leaving out? Okay. Thanks, everybody.
What are your priorities starting next week?
Well, look, you know, I said at the beginning we could do all three things at once. An impeachment trial, that's done. But next week, as I just put on the calendar, Merrick Garland.
This last part is important because the Democrats talk about their future agenda, which is their nominations.
Another nominee. So next week we're focusing on nominees. And at the very beginning, we've only been around, you know, we've only had the new Congress and the new president for a little more than a month. We passed one of the most important pieces of legislation in decades. We've done an impeachment trial, which I think showed the American people what Trump was really like. And we're filling up his cabinet. We're getting a lot done. I'm proud of my caucus. I truly love
Wait
my
for this
caucus,
part.
every one of them.
Including Joe Manchin?
Yes, absolutely.
He was asked, do you love everyone, including Joe Manchin?
Everyone. I love Bernie. We love, you have to look at people for what they're, look for the good in people. And if we couldn't all come together, we wouldn't get this done. Any one of us could have not had it done, okay? So I have nothing bad to say in answer to your question about any single member of my caucus. How could you when you got 50 votes? And by the way, all those tough amendments, they tried to put all those logs in our path. On every single important vote, every Democrat voted to block those amendments. They tried to trick us and everything else. That's an amazing testament to this caucus. Every single vote, you saw the votes they put forward. Not once did anyone dissent on any important vote. And the few dissents, they came to us and it was okay because it wasn't a killer amendment or we didn't need their vote. It's
Do
great.
you ever try to make a serious effort to get Murkowski or any of the Republicans?
Okay, thank you. We hope the Republicans will start joining us. I have a very good relationship with.
Now, what's interesting, folks, is you don't expect the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. We don't expect him to say, "Oh, I'm not happy with I'm not happy with what Joe Manchin did." We're not expecting that, right? But I do believe that the Democrats have a bunch of challenges that lie ahead, because this came down to the wire for them. And honestly, it wasn't supposed to be that way. You don't expect Chuck Schumer to say, "Well, we thought we had it under control, but man, this Manchin, we had to talk to him. The president had to call him," which is, by the way, I'm pretty sure that's what happened behind the scenes. So as far as the Democrats go, I think that they know that they have their work cut out for them, because as he said, and by the way, again, folks, please click the subscribe button if you appreciate the behind the scenes coverage, so you understand both perspectives. That would really mean a lot to me. As far as Chuck Schumer is concerned, a single Democratic senator or somebody who votes with the Democrats, including Bernie Sanders, the independent from Vermont, including Angus King, the independent from Maine, including Senator Kristen Sinema from Arizona, who didn't want to do $15 an hour minimum wage, including the now famous or infamous Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia. Any one of them could just stall the agenda, which is why the Democrats need to walk that fine line to get future stuff done. So that was it, everyone. I hope you learned something new. I appreciate you. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I really want to see you in the next episode of Ignition Time, and I'll be releasing detailed videos on what to expect from the stimulus, what impact this has on unemployment benefits. There could be, unfortunately, a small lapse for some individuals receiving unemployment benefits, because this is still coming down to the wire, even though what's left is a formality, meaning the House passing the bill and the President signing the bill. I don't think that we'll have any drama there like we had back in December. So thanks, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Please subscribe. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon. Don't forget to like. That would mean a lot to me. That would be my stimulus from you. Thanks.